Hello everyone, it's Auntie Janet checking in today for part 2 of our story, A Miracle for Samuelito. This is Samuelito, who we met last week in our story about the little boy from Mexico. And if you remember correctly, we left Samuelito here after speaking to a lady who he found out was an evangelista who told him about a book that had no pictures and no words. And that book told him the story of Jesus' love for him and how Jesus came and paid the price for his sin. But remember, as we left Samuelito last week, he was about to go home to his family, and the blind man who he worked beside told him to never listen to this evangelista again because she was an evil, wicked woman. Well, Samuelito left that lady and left the blind man for the day as his work day was finished, and he left and went home. He climbed the hill to his family's home in the mountains of Mexico. It was just a little narrow passageway where you could walk. No cars could reach up there, just you could walk a walking path. And as he walked, he wondered, will I ever see that lady again? And what she said, was it really true? But he forgot those things when he arrived home. Here he entered his family's home, a little mud house. And as he entered, he heard his dad's booming voice say, "Is that my muchacho? I have waited to eat with my big muchacho," which means big boy. And Samuelito smiled. He loved his father and his mother and his little sister. He quickly went and washed his hands and then came to the table where they were all sitting waiting to have supper together. He kissed his mom gently on the forehead and touched his sister's head to say hello to her, and then joined them at the table. They sat at a low little table, and at each person's place they had little flat pancake-like things, but they called them tortillas. They were made out of corn. And then in the middle of the table was a bowl of special red beans with chili powder and peppers in them. And this is what they would eat. And what they would do, they didn't use forks and knives like we would do. They would take and use their little pancakes, the tortillas, and scoop into the bowl with the beans and the peppers, and then they would eat it. And oh, Samuelito loved his mother's cooking. And as they sat at the table, they talked about their day. And Samuelito said, "You just must see how much money I earned today. You will be very happy with me today." They finished eating and they cleared off the table, and then Samuelito reached into his pocket in his shorts and took out his money. He dropped all the coins on the table and they bounced around. His little sister put her hands up like this to stop any coins from rolling off onto the floor, and then they counted out the money. 12 pesos and 65 centavos is what he made. Wow, Samuelito, what a wonderful day's earnings that you've done. You have worked hard. This is wonderful. And then Samuelito went, and on the top shelf there in their little kitchen area, there was a large clay pot, a crock pot. And he brought it down, and he could hear the money jingling inside it. And he took his 12 pesos and 65 centavos, and he dropped the money in the crock. And he could feel that the money was getting higher in the crock. "Soon, Samuelito, you will have enough money for you to go to school. Soon we will all work together and put the money together, and when we get enough, you will be able to go off to school and learn like the other children." But they put all the money in, and then he set the crock back up top, and everyone knew where the money was. Everyone in his family knew. And no one would steal in his family because they knew they were all working for the project for Samuelito to be able to go to school. Now, would they steal from other people? Unfortunately, yes. But they wouldn't steal from each other and that special money that they were saving for him. After supper, they talked for a while, and then his little sister had to go to bed. And then his mom and his dad and Samuelito went and sat by the doorway as the sun was starting to go down, and they talked about their day. And they said how they must all work together to save money for Samuelito's schooling. And this was their plan. Tomorrow morning would be Saturday, And on Saturday, Samuelito and his little sister were to go off up into the mountains, and their job was to catch lizards. You think, why would they want to catch lizards? Well, what they would do is catch lizards and then tie a rope around the lizard, and then they would take them out near the road and try to sell them to people, because where he lived, people ate lizards and thought they were a delicious thing to eat for supper. So that was going to be their job for tomorrow. But his dad had raised some pigs and had gotten several pigs together, and he was going to leave early the next morning to take them to the market and try to sell the pigs, both to give money for the family, for them to live, and then he would also, if he had some extra money, put it towards Samuelito's schooling. As they sat there and talked a little bit about their plans for the next day, Samuelito kept thinking about the lady he had met in town and how she told him about God's love for him. And he kept thinking, maybe I should tell my parents about them. But then he remembered the blind man saying, no, don't tell your parents. They will be angry if they know that you spoke to Evangelista. So he chose to remain quiet and didn't tell his parents. After a little while, his mother and father said, look, the sun is going down. We have an early start tomorrow. It's time to go to bed. They left the doorway, and each one of them got their own special blankets and curled up on the floor to go to sleep. Samuelito's dad was very tired, and within just a few minutes he was snoring. And a few minutes later his mom was breathing heavy, so he knew that everyone was asleep except him. He decided to take his blanket, wrap it around him, and went back to the open doorway. By this stage the sun had gone down and the moon was up, and he looked up. He could see all the stars sparkling and looked at the moon, and he thought, that lady said heaven is out there, and heaven is a beautiful place. I wonder where it is. I'd love to go to heaven one day, where God is, where there are streets of gold. And even the blind man could go there and he wouldn't be blind anymore. Could it be that I could go there one day? Wow. I wish I could read the Bible for myself and know if what she said was really true, but I don't know. And he just kept thinking and thinking about it. Then he realized, no, I need to go to bed. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. I have to go catch lizards and then go and try and sell them to make more money. So I better go to bed. He wrapped his blanket around him. He went back to his bed, and as he was falling to sleep, he was thinking about the lizards, but more importantly, he was thinking about the lady who had told him of Jesus. And he just kept thinking, could it be true? I wonder if it's true. Maybe someday I'll get brave enough to tell my mom and dad what she told me, but I don't want them angry at me. And he fell asleep thinking, will I ever see her again, and will I ever meet her again? He fell sound asleep, and the next thing he knew, he could smell coffee. He woke up early the next morning. He stretched and he got up, and there the sun was up, and he called out to his mom, Mom, is it time to get up? Yes, Samuelito, quickly get up. It's time to get up and get ready for the day. So Samuelito went and splashed his face with water and combed his hair, put on his clean shirt and his shorts that his mom had washed. They didn't have a washing machine. She had to go to the river to scrub his clothes with some soap, but they were nice and clean. And then they came and had breakfast. And what did he eat? Every meal he would eat tortillas, the thin pancakes made of corn, but for breakfast he would have sweet coffee. And he sat and ate with his mom. And he said to his mom, but where's Dad? And she said to him, Papa has already gone to take the pigs to go sell them to try and earn money. But here, quickly, you must eat and then take your sister to the mountains. He took his breakfast, and then he called his little sister, and off they went. It was a good morning. In fact, but him and his sister each caught 2 lizards. Look at them. They're quite large lizards, and they would carry them by tying a rope around the lizards' necks, and they would carry them. And once they each caught 2 lizards, they left the mountains and headed down to the highway, where they knew that cars would be going by and people would be driving by, and they would hold the lizards up high like this and try to stop people to see if they wanted to buy them for meat for them to have for supper. So they went, and they were standing by the side of the road, and this Saturday was good. There was quite a few cars going by, And within a few minutes, they had sold 2 of the lizards and gotten the money. Samuelito thought, it's going to be a good day. We're going to make good money today. And then they had a bit of a lull. It was quiet. Not too many cars went by. When the next thing he looked up, and here was a car coming down the road. And Samuelito said to his sister, quickly, hold the lizards up. Maybe they will want to buy the lizards. But as the car got closer, Samuelito thought, this car looks familiar to me. Then he remembered. It was the same car that he saw the day before. Let me go back here and show you. It was the same car. Here in this picture we saw the day before when the missionary and his wife had arrived in town to pick up the lady who had talked to him. And this car was coming straight at them. And then he realized this was the missionary lady. And when he looked in the car, there was 2 ladies in the car, and his sister held the lizards up high. And suddenly the ladies looked and they recognized Samuelito. And he saw them talking to each other, and they stopped the car. Samuelito's sister didn't know who these people were. He didn't know that they were the evangelists. She didn't know that they were the evangelistas. She just thought she had a customer coming to buy her lizards. So she ran quickly to the side of the car and said to the ladies as they got out, would you like to buy lizards? And the missionary lady looked back at Samuelito and recognized him. And she motioned for him to come closer. Samuelito was a little bit hesitant, but he went closer. And the missionary lady bought the 2 lizards from his little sister. But then she said the same thing to his little sister as she said to him. Would you like to hear a story from a book that has no pictures and no words in it? Samuelito's little sister looked. She was quite curious and said, sure. And the lady started to tell his little sister the story of heaven and about how the gold page about heaven, about the black page, about our sin, the red page about Jesus' blood, how Jesus paid the price for our sin, and the white page that because of what Jesus had done for us, our hearts could be made as white as snow if we trusted Jesus as our Savior. And his little sister stood there and listened. Her mouth was open. She had never heard this message before and had never heard of Jesus. And Samuelito heard again. And the Holy Spirit was working in Samuelito's heart and mind to say, this really was true. What this woman was saying was true. You need to believe this, Samuelito. They listened, and his little sister looked at him and had never heard anything like this before. Well, the missionary lady got back in her car and said, bye, Samuelito. And the little sister thought it was funny that she knew Samuelito's name. But the lady got back in the car and they drove away. And now Samuelito had a choice to make. They had finished selling all their lizards, so it was time to go home before he would head to the village to shine some more shoes. And they started to walk home. And his little sister kept talking about this book and about this lady who told them of Jesus who loved them. Samuelito, who was this? And Samuelito, why did this lady know your name? Samuelito thought, oh man, I need to tell my parents. The blind man said that my parents will be angry because I've listened to an evangelista, but I've got to tell my parents about this lady and about the message she told me, because if I don't, my little sister is not going to keep a secret. I know she's going to tell my parents that I was talking to this lady. So I'll make a decision. Tonight, when I come back from shining shoes, I promise I will tell my parents that I've been speaking to this lady, and I will tell them the message that she told me. I don't know what my parents will say, but I must tell them. They got home. He dropped his sister off at the door, and when he came back, they put the money that they had earned from selling the lizards into the special crock where his school money was going to be put. And then he quickly had to grab his box from the shoe shine kit and head to town and head there to work for the day. Well, we're going to leave Samuelito here now as he goes off to work for another day and left his sister at home. What do you think? Do you think his sister's going to tell his mom and his dad that Samuelito was talking to an evangelista? Will Samuelito be brave enough to tell his mom and dad the truth that night when he comes home from work? And what are his parents going to say? Well, I'm going to leave you there today, and you must come back next week and find out the ending of the story. We'll see you next week.